Dr. Olubukola Abubakar Saraki is a colossus in the Nigerian political landscape and the scion of the Saraki political dynasty of Kwara State. Starting out as a member of the People's Democratic Party, he was later to dump his party for the All Progressives Congress in 2013, where he was one of those that was instrumental in installing retired Major General Muhammadu Buhari as Nigeria's president in 2015. He subsequently became the president of the Senate and chairman of Nigeria's 8th National Assembly, but fell out with President Buhari, who wanted Senator Ahmed Lawan to lead the federal legislature. The split with Buhari later forced him to return to the PDP on July 13, 2018, where he became the leader of the opposition. Saraki subsequently declared his campaign for the PDP presidential ticket in the 2019 election, but lost to the primary to the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. After the primary, he was announced as the Director General of Atiku Abubakar's presidential campaign for the 2019 presidential election, which the latter lost to Buhari. That move also proved to be costly for Saraki, as he shockingly lost the Kwara Central senatorial seat to Ibrahim Oloriegbe in what was then termed as the Otoge movement, or revolt, targeted at ending the Saraki family's political dominance in the state. Ever since, Saraki has been confined to party politics and superintending over the National Reconciliation and Strategy Committee of the PDP, where his primary mandate has been to settle the crises that rocks the various chapters of the party. But with the 2023 elections less than 2 years away, Saraki has started the process of reviving his ambition to govern the country. Now joining us from Abuja to discuss the political dynamics playing out in the PDP and its quest to wrest power from the ruling APC in the next general election, as well as the emerging political landscape in his home state, is Dr. Bukola Saraki, former president of the Senate and former governor of Kwara State. He'll also be giving us his thoughts on PDP's upcoming national convention, the governorship election in Anambra State, his chances of securing the presidential ticket of the party, and other issues of national importance. Good morning, Dr. Saraki, and thank you for joining us.
Well, quickly, let's start with the politics of the People's Democratic Party. Are you comfortable with the crisis that the party has been dealing with, particularly with regard to the tenure of the National Working Committee, considering the fact that you led a peacemaking effort and tried to reconcile persons and groups within the party across the country after the last general elections? And, how do you feel about the fact that there are suits in court right now trying to stop the planned, scheduled convention of the party this weekend?
Well, thank you very much. I, like most people in our party, are pretty satisfied with where we are today. If we look at we're about 5 days to convention. We started the process of where we elected our officers at the ward, local government, state, and now we're going to a national convention. In most of the states, we've been able to elect officers with less rancor and smooth. A few states we have issues where we had problems before we set up our committee, National Reconciliation Committee. We're happy with that, and we're now going to the convention. And some of the moves we've done so far indicate that hopefully, we're pretty hopeful that we'll have a very smooth and successful convention of our party. I think this is different from really the other party, and where you have parallel congresses all across the country in over 20 states. As an opposition party, we've been able to manage our congresses. Yes, there are one or two cases in court, but I don't think that changes the commitment of our members to stay united and resolve our differences. In political parties, there would be differences, but what really matters is the leadership and the commitment of these members to find solutions. We're going into the convention, I think, out of probably 24 positions. I think we've already reached consensus in about 21. I think probably about 3 or 4 left. So it shows a party that understands the importance of the time in the country today, and that it's not about us, the politicians, but it's about us creating a platform that gives us an opportunity to provide leadership for this country at this crucial time. So by and large, I am satisfied with it. Of course, there's no perfection in the process, but when you compare the options, because elections are about choices, when you look at the choice that you have between a party that's been able to carry out ward and local government and state congresses, and then you have another party that you have parallel congresses in about 2/3 of the states, I think the difference is very, very clear. Today, I'm happy to report that a lot of these state chapters we've been able to reconcile. I mean, we have 2 states that we had problem for over 10 years, where we've had our efforts, we've been able to bring about resolutions and some kind of harmony in those states. So by and large, we're still work in progress, but I think we're showing the country that, it is, despite all the noise that people are saying about our crisis, I don't think those crises are there. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think we have probably maybe one, if at all, that we see any parallel congresses in our states. That is a far cry different from what is happening in the other parties. So by and large, I think those of us in the PDP are satisfied. There's still, of course, areas for improvement. There's still some states that we've not been able to resolve. There's still knotty issues in a few states. We're still working at that. But I think our concern as a party now is Saturday, our convention coming up on Saturday, to be able to showcase a united party. And as you know, that I chaired the National Reconciliation Committee that was set up like almost a year ago, where we thought a lot, we tried to find a way of reconciling a lot of this committee had 2 former Senate presidents, from former governors, former leaders, and we went around state by state, and we can see the results of that in a lot of our states, Plateau, Nasarawa, Niger. We had cases like Ogun, also states like in Borno State, across the country, where it's possible to bring our people together. We're still doing that, and I think we've done well. It's reflected in what you see in our state congresses and what you're seeing in the National Convention coming up in the next few days.
So, Dr. Saraki, I guess that was a reference to what's happening or what happened in the APC Congress in Kwara State between supporters of the governor and supporters of the minister. You might want to expatiate on that. Minister for Information, Lai Mohammed there. But my actual question is that you know what it takes to wrest power from the ruling party, which you managed to do as part of the APC coalition. It took unity of purpose. It took, collective influence and obviously finances. Does PDP have what it takes to do so this time in 2023? And what is the game plan? And does that game plan involve zoning?
I was not making particular reference to Kwara APC. I was talking out nationwide, the fact that a ruling party has not been able to carry out congresses in the states, where you have parallel congresses in over 20 states. And I was making a reference to the fact that, to my own recollection, that I've never seen this happen in the political history of this country. We go back to the 1979 MPN to date. And a party that can't provide leadership or internal democracy properly in its party view is that how does that party really want to provide leadership for the country? That was the point I was making there, not with specific record. I think Kwara is just one of the many states where that has happened. And then you talked about whether PDP is ready and whether we have the resources and the commitment and ready to wrestle power, as you described it. First and foremost, I tell people in 2015, the number of states that APC had at that time was almost the same as what we have now in PDP. So the concern that people were decamping, or governors, they were counting governors that had moved to APC from PDP, I don't think that should be a great concern. And secondly, also, if you remember in 2015, then actually we only had really one state in the south at that time. That was in AP. Now we have over 5 states, and we have very committed leadership provided by our governors who are committed on the issues ahead. More importantly, I think the country is in a different place. The election is about choices. Nigerians have seen what the ruling party, the ruling government has offered. And if you go by the statistics and what we've done, the research we have done, getting feedback, it's more of the commitment of Nigerians. And that we appreciate. And that is why we're doing a lot to get our party united. There are individual differences, there are individual ambitions, but we all see the importance of the country. And that is why every time it looks as if we have a crisis, we come up with a solution. And there are many examples I can give. What is happening in different state chapters, sensitive issues, like zoning, sensitive issues, like, people's ambition. But we've all said, listen, what is important today is that this is the only alternative available for Nigerians to provide an alternative government. And as such, the interests of Nigerians should supersede our individual interests. We should put that behind us and unite. And that we're showing by our actions. It's not that it should be common in opposition parties for you to have crises in every of the states, because you don't have a sitting president who will whip everybody to shape. But despite that, we've been able to resolve those due to concessions, due to people looking at the bigger picture and say, you know what, I know this is not about me. We must think of Nigeria. We must think of really being united, convincing Nigerians that we're ready to take charge and rescue this country, because this country at this moment of time requires a different direction.
I mean, when you say, oh, we can't resolve this, we have resolved this, I smile a bit because I'm like, really?
Yes.
Have you really resolved it? The Uche Secondus factor? A lot of people felt Uche Secondus was fairly treated. There's still court cases here and there. Some people don't even know if the convention will go ahead, because there's a case in Port Harcourt today, as enunciated by Dr. Abati. We don't know where that will go. So really, can you really say everything is all good as regards the internal democracy of the PDP? And now you're talking about the zeitgeist of the moment, using Tundu's words now. The fact that, the economy is bad and all of that. The fact that, the APC has not done well. Yeah, that's a good argument to enunciate as we go into election year. But a lot of people will say, you were part of the first phase of that administration. You were Senate President in that administration. And when you talk about the poverty numbers, you presided over the start of those poverty numbers. You presided over the start of those unemployment numbers. So you were part of the APC a couple of years ago.
That's why, but of course, and again, that's why we parted ways. Yes, we made promises to Nigerians in 2015. We made promises that the economy will get better. We made promises on security. We made promises on corruption. We made promises on a lot of issues. And for me, an individual and a few of us, we felt that we did not meet those promises, and we parted ways. I didn't stay there and continue. So I think it would be unfair for you to say that, yes, we went in 2015 with a lot of hope, with a lot of expectations. We were really motivated and thinking, yes, we're going to get this country working properly. But I think it takes a lot of character and it takes a lot of courage to be able to leave the comfort of government and say, listen, look, we have not got this right. And I think we need to depart from this and do something else. And that is what some of us have stood for at a great expense. I mean, definitely at a huge expense. And that is the spirit of what we're saying here. This is not about propaganda. This is about, and I think we need to move away from propaganda to substance. What we're saying is that we are not the one creating the figures. I mean, I'll be the first to admit if things were going in the right direction. It's not power for the sake of power. The question is that we need to find solutions to a lot of these problems. And today, as in most elections, the party who is there now have not met those promises. They gave themselves. And people are saying that. I'm not an individual saying it. I'm sure even when I listen to your shows, most people that come on your shows tell you that Nigeria is not where they would like it to be today. That is fact. That is, and as such, what we should be talking about is, what is the alternative? I mean, if you are happy and you believe that the path forward for Nigeria is to continue with this party and with their programs, that's your choice. The choice of others to say, no, we must have a country where it's secured. A country that in 2015, only one part of the country was insecure. Now, entire part of the country has its own issues. That is not what most people are ready to accept. A country where today there's issue of disunity. That is not what a lot of people want to accept. Today, a country where a lot of our youth are either unemployed, or those who can be employed are moving out of the country. That was not the case in 2015. So, and a lot of people are saying that we need an alternative. And they're asking and saying, who is going to provide that alternative? And our responsibility, because of the importance of where we are as a country, is that we cannot afford to get it wrong in this next election. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that PDP is perfect. But I'm saying, as I say, elections are about choices. And I think that we are in a better position to provide a better country for us. If we look about issue of even where the country is today and investment and how the world sees Nigeria, in the time of our party, when the party was, there were opportunities for a lot of our Themian youth, which does not exist now. And so that is what I'm talking. And then talking about the court cases, yes, we have a court cases involving our chairman. He's still our chairman, Uche Secondus is still our chairman. But I don't think we can judge the entire state of the party on one particular, just one case involving, I'm sure the chairman himself, there are issues that are in court. But I said, let's look beyond that. Let's look at the process that led to where we're getting a national convention. How did we manage our ward congresses? How did we manage our local government congresses? How did we manage our state congress? That has nothing to do with Uche Secondus. But did we manage in a party that looks united? Or did we have parallel congresses in all our states? The answer is no, big no. So yes, you can laugh to say that, yes, there are still issues. I don't doubt every political issue across the world has issues, because when you bring people with different ideas together, you have issues. But by and large, as a party, does it look like a party that is forging ahead, resolving these issues, and trying to go forward to in the convention in the 5 days, elect new leaders and march the party forward to the next election? I think that is the story in our party. Today, we're not meeting to resolve congresses in 20-something states. We're not doing that. We're not. So the foundation of ours is that, yes, there are skirmishes here and there, but I believe that we have capacity for conflict resolution within our party. And for some of us, our governors, our leaders, this is what we've been trying to do over the last, even the current committee of the chairman, this was also they've been trying to do. So by and large, what I'm saying is that as a party, we appreciate where the country is. We are determined to give our people, Nigerian people, a better option. We believe we have the capacity to do it. Because what we have all learned, sadly, is that capacity and ability is a big issue in leadership. And we must this time around talk about how we can ensure that we have the right kind of people to lead the country at all levels. People who really don't want power just for the sake of power, but really want to make a difference. And who are courageous enough, and if they see things that are going wrong, to be able to say, this is going wrong, we're not going to be part of it. Because when you go to an election, you make promises, and you must be accountable, you must be held accountable to those promises. They're not wish lists. They're not for you to just say, because that is deception. And I think that what we've seen, which we've seen in a lot of states, that there was a lot of propaganda. Of course, we've not been able to back it up in most of what is happening today in the country. And as I said, it's not just me. If you sample a lot of people across the country, that, look, the country is not in a good place today, and we must try and rescue it and put it in the right path.
Well, Senator Saraki, I don't want to delay this question till we run out of time. Are you running for president in 2023? If the answer is yes, are you bothered? Are you bothered that given the zoning arrangement in the PDP, the chairman will come from the north central part of the country, where you come from? And if you don't get the nomination of the party, are you likely to defect to another political party? Possibly, maybe a return to the APC. So those are issues of concern that I think our viewers will be interested.
Okay, thank you, Ruben, for your question. Let me first, I think first things first. I think what is important for us now, any PDP member that truly loves the party and cares for the country and the importance of where we are, is you must have a party. You must build a strong party. One of the reasons why I took up the responsibility of the National Reconciliation Strategy Committee was because there was a concern that the party was losing a lot of steam, and that without a strong party, you can't be talking about individual ambition. I remember, as as last year, a lot of individuals were already talking about their ambition in 2023. And I was one of those that said, no, it can't be about ambition without a strong party. So the focus for me now is for us to build a strong party. And we've started that process in our congresses, in reconciliation, and the final event, hopefully, is the convention. After we've done that and we've put that in place, then we can start talking about individual interests. So I think that your question is a bit premature, and I'm sure in due time I would love to come on your show and answer that question when the time is ready. Now, talking about the issue of zoning, I think that has been made very clear by the party at all our meetings, that yes, we have zoned the issue of party offices, but it was clear in doing that, we said that this does not preclude anybody that has any presidential ambition. Most of our leaders have said that. I've seen a lot of interviews. Some have come on your show and re-emphasized that. We've said that at NEC. We've said that at all the possible meetings, all the caucuses we've had, that yes, we have taken the chairmanship to the north. We've taken it to North Central. But definitely wherever we've taken to does not preclude anybody. What we're looking for in the party is that if anybody wants to offer himself to run for president, let him offer himself. I think the time that we have now is really, we must look at and try and ensure we get our best, because the job ahead is a job that requires, for us to really focus on leadership and qualities of leadership. I think that was your second question. Your third question, you said, if I decide to run and I don't get the ticket with that defect, I think that's also not really fair. I mean, in 2019, I ran for president. I didn't get it, but I offered myself to be the DG to Atiku Abubakar, and I worked hard. And I think it was Tudun that said in our opening remark that I did that at the expense of also, having lost my seat. But I committed myself and I worked very hard. So I'm a team player. Personal ambition is not what the issue is today. What is important is to get this country right. I have my children, grandchildren, that we must live a better country. We must live a country where there are jobs for our talented youth. We have a lot of our youth that have great potential. And today, the world sees Africa as a next destination for investment. And if you talk about Africa, you must talk about Nigeria. We have great opportunity to turn this thing around. And I truly believe that. I honestly, truly believe that. And I believe that with the right kind of leadership, it will not take so long to turn this country around. But to do that, I used to say when we used to campaign, you cannot give what you don't. You can't give what you don't have. And I think that is what we need to focus in 2023, ensure that our leaders at all levels. But to do that also, we need the right kind of followership. And I think that, we all must take an interest, a very active interest in ensuring that we get it right in 2023. So I think I've answered your question, Ruben.
Well, Dr. Abati's question about the possibility of you decamping is not entirely unreasonable when we see what's been termed in the press as a gale of defections from the PDP to the APC. You appear to be hemorrhaging heavyweights, governors, lawmakers. Is PDP undaunted by this? No. I don't think we're hemorrhaging. I think that it looked like that maybe about if you remember when it was clear, I did mention a couple of times that there were certain governors that we knew that they were going to leave. I mean, they had left. I mean, it was just, the final exit. I mean, so we're not surprised. But since then, we've got some big wigs that are coming to the party. This week, there's a governor or a former governor that's going to join the party. We've had a couple of who have joined. And look, we all know that when those leaders in ruling parties, when they defect, they don't defect early. They defect late in the game. You saw that in 2015. So keep watching. I think Nigerians will not be surprised when you're going to begin to see some defections from the ruling party. And I think that, and talking about, because some people defected, I mean, that doesn't mean that I would defect. You have to look at everybody's antecedents. And that's why I said that if you look at my antecedents in 2019, not because I did not win the presidential prize, I did not defect. So I can't see why that will come up now. And I want to emphasize, it's not, honestly, where we are now, it's not about personal ambition. Where we are now, it's about how can we work to make this country right. And it's also, I also believe that whoever emerges as president, it's not about him. It's about the president and his team.
It's about who is going to work with, who is going to take responsibilities. And I think we all must take blame here, where, because I think leadership is about a recruitment process where people say they're seeking a job. And we don't really scrutinize to see, are they really fit for that job? Do they have the capacity to do that job? And I hope that this time round we will look at capacity, and because the work ahead requires people who are capable to make this country a better country.
I mean, if you don't admit that you guys are hemorrhaging in the PDP, at least there's a hemorrhoid somewhere, with all of the fights going on, and things are not all clean and clear. But let me come back to you and talk to you about some quarrel. No, let me talk. That's one. You react to that.
What I'm saying is,
I also wanted to add Kwara politics to it, and I wanted to, just for the sake of learning and listening from you, what did you learn with the Oyo Revolution? What lessons did you learn about that in Kwara? Because that must be a seminal moment for politics in Nigeria in general, and you were one of the victims of that Oyo Revolution. I mean, what did it mean to you? What did you learn from that?
Well, I think one has learned a lot, and I think one of the things you learn from that is that elections have to do sometimes with sentiments and propaganda. Because if you come to Kwara today and talk to a lot of people in Kwara, you find a lot of them will tell you that, we got sold lies and propaganda. We have made certain mistakes in following up the issues. And really, at the end of the day, they were better off then than now. So one of the things you also learn in politics and in the process is that, you must also accept that sometimes the electorate will go, electorate is always right, electors will go with emotions at times, and later the electorate too can come out and say, look, I think we got it wrong here. Because at the end of the day in Kwara, there was no substance. It was more of propaganda. That's what they're saying. I don't need to, as I said, since we lost the election, I immediately congratulated the other party. I told all my supporters, give them support. Our gubernatorial candidate who wanted to go, he went to electoral tribunal, wanted to go to the appeal and court of our Supreme Court. We called him and said, look, let's cooperate. Don't go beyond the electoral tribunal. And now it's the party themselves and the people that are beginning to say that, oh, we made a mistake here. So one has learned from that the electorate sometimes, maybe after there's fatigue, maybe after, a party has been in government for so long, people want to say, look, I want to try something else. And sometimes those decisions are made on sentiments as opposed to actual what is on ground. And that is what is happening in Kwara State. And luckily, when I took this earlier on, is that, look, we're not going to start from day one in antagonizing or going against the governor. Let him have an opportunity to govern. Let him show what he can do for the people of Kwara. And also for us, also let people know that we don't have to be in power. So it wasn't that we had to struggle and ensure that despite our reservations about how the election went, I learned we could walk away from it. And for me, it gave me the confidence that I could walk away from this. We're there to serve. And we walked away from it and said, look, go and, it's your turn now in government. Go and make Kwara a better place or deliver on your electoral promises. But that does not happen. And within them, so I don't need to say anything. I mean, we all can listen to what is going on. They're doing a better opposition than ourselves. And the people themselves have come to realize that, this was a huge mistake that was just based on propaganda and lies. And so that is one has learned that, sentiments and propaganda are issues sometimes are not substance. And that at the end of the day, what is important is that people have that's the beauty of democracy. People, after every 4 years, have the choice to look at what they thought was the best decision and decide. And I'm sure if you have been following the policies in Kwara, you see that majority of our people in Kwara are saying that, oh my God, this was a mistake. We were sold something that really we should not have bought from the first place.
Well, Senator Saraki, you were president of the 8th Senate of the Federal Republic. And some of the things that we've been dealing with after you left that position were things initiated under your watch. For example, the PIB with regard to the governance bill, and then this whole controversy about the Electoral Act and the electronic transmission of results. Well, when you look back now, Are there things you feel that you could have done differently as Senate President, particularly in terms of those pieces of legislation that I've mentioned, and then the relationship between the executive arm and the legislature, which you led?
Well, I'm sorry to say, I don't think so. I think we gave our best in its Senate, and I think we provided leadership. I think a lot of people maybe did not, some don't understand some of the responsibilities that we have, or what the Constitution says are our responsibilities. Some are beginning to understand it now. By the Constitution, there's separation of powers. By the way the Constitution is set up, there's bound to be conflict, because that arm of government, the legislative arm of government, is like a check and balance on the executive. So there's a very fine line in the major issue is that how do we work to make the country better? Making the country better does not mean I must say yes. At the same time, it does not mean I must be an obstacle in progress. But in questioning some of the decisions that have been taken, it's part of the process of democracy. If there was not meant to be check and balances, then there's no need to have a legislative arm of government. You know, that is the whole understanding. And a lot of things we did, despite all the differences, were all for the good of the country. There are a lot of bills that we passed then to provide the right climate for doing business. The PIB you talked about, the PIB was done, was completed. It was part of the politics that was going on at that time that was never signed. So it's not initiated. If you go back and look at it, it was the first time we had engaged the stakeholders, we had passed the bill had been passed. It was just the executive decided on their own not to sign it. Same with the electoral act at that time, and even the constitutional amendment. So we played a role that I think that I felt was a role that legislative will play. But unfortunately, it was misconstrued in certain chapters or certain areas that it was antagonistic government. It wasn't meant to be. We all have a role to play in government, the judiciary, legislative, executive, and part of that is being to understand our constitutional right and we work within that for the better of the country. We were not that's the framework of the Constitution, and that's the way it was done. And I've always said that if the framers of the Constitution do not want those checks and balances, then there's no point having a legislative arm of government. It doesn't mean you are anti the executive. You look at America, for example, that we all copy. In America, it's 2 senators today, just 2, not the entire Senate, who are holding the executive accountable on the issue of the infrastructure bill. It doesn't mean that those 2 don't love America. It doesn't mean that because we had those issues, we don't care about the people. I don't think so. And I think maybe we have come before our time. I think as our democracy continues to nurture and mature, people will understand that we care as much. And I'm sure even those members in the National Assembly do care for the country as well. But I think it's because it's the youngest arm of government, because in the military, you never had legislation. So even the people don't really understand the role of the National Assembly, and because I remember, even if we had things, people would say, "How dare you? This is what the executive wants, so it must be." That is not, in my own understanding, what we're there for. And there are areas where we collaborated closely to make things happen, but I think that was largely misconstrued, and there was a lot, again, back to a lot of propaganda at that time. And I think time will tell to say, who was right or who was there in the interest of the country. Because I remember a lot of people used to say that, it was the 8th Senate that was not allowing the government to work. Well, I'm sure we all know better than that now.
Well, that's exactly what was said, that the fractious relationship that you had, the working relationship that you had with the presidency caused delays and hampered execution of projects. But in your opinion, based on what you've said, has your successor in office, the current president of the Senate, is he running a rubber stamp Senate?
No, I don't think to be fair for me. I think I've always felt that when you leave office, my views about my successor or your successor, there are ways by which you can channel your views. And I think that I've had opportunities from time to time to channel my views to him. We all have different ways of style of leadership. His style of leadership is different from my style of leadership. And I think that's all I would like to say for now on that.
Is his style rubber stamp? You know, because let's be precise. Is his style rubber stamp?
Well, I don't know how you define his style. So his style is different from mine. I think that's all I would say.
Is his style a yes man, yes person kind of rubber stamp? Is it a yes man style to the executive? Does it say yes to everything the executive
as I said, well, look, listen. As I said, my where I sit is that my style and my approach is different, and he's decided to take a different approach in providing leadership in the National Assembly. I think that is to be judged by Nigerians and by all of us. In my own opinion, my style, as I said, is different from
Senator Saraki, let's talk about Kwara State. What's the state of the relationship between your family now and the Kwara State government? And how has that toxic relationship, if I may use that expression, how has it helped to promote bonding and solidarity within the family?
Well, I don't think it would be fair to Kwarans for us to, put down and narrow down the issue of governance or the politics to the issue of two families. As I said, after the election, an opportunity has come from the current governor to use the opportunity to deliver on his promises, deliver on dividend of democracy, address the issue concerning the people of the state. I don't think that the relationship of the families should play that role. I think that would be belittling the electorate and the people of Kwara State. So I don't want to go along those directions. The governor is the governor at the moment in time. He has a responsibility to the Kwarans that voted for him and Kwarans that didn't vote for him to make a better state. I think those are the issues. The issues of families remain families, and I think that that really shouldn't be the main source of. And I will continue to advise the governor that what is important is that people who had faith and thought that this was the right thing to do. He has a year and a few months left to see and make things better for the people of the state. Clearly, that's not what is happening now. And don't get distracted by issues like what we're talking about, the issue of family matters. I think what you should focus on is being able to deliver on the electoral promises to the workers, to some of the teachers, to the youth that they promised a lot of jobs, and be able to run an administration that shows that there's a good knowledge of how government should be run.
Right, let's talk about the forthcoming Anambra elections on November 6th and all the tension going on there. What's your perspective? INEC has been forced to deny reports of mass resignation of INEC ad hoc staff. The NSA is reading the Riot Act, saying that the resolve of the Nigerian government should not be tested with regards to the election. And so what's your perspective and also the prospects of PDP through your candidate, Valentine Ozigbo?
Well, I think most importantly is that we must ensure that election holds. We must ensure the election is free and fair. We must ensure that the INEC ensures that we have transmission of those results. We must ensure that we provide security enough for people to be able to exercise their civil duties and vote. That is a responsibility that government must make sure and ensure. Then we must encourage the people as well to let's all cooperate and ensure, because it is a democracy that we're practicing, and the only time we have the opportunity for people to choose their leaders is through elections. It would be very unfair if every citizen of Anambra cannot exercise that right. So that should be the response of all Nigerians to ensure that that happens. That's number one. Second point is to do with our candidate. I also believe that PDP as a party and our candidate have a very good chance in winning Anambra State. We've always done well in Anambra. I believe that we have a vibrant, popular candidate. It's unfortunate that we we did not manage the primaries as best as we should have, and that's why it's making the race a bit tighter. I believe if we had done manage the primaries much better, it would have been a landslide or a walkover. But now it's a bit tighter because of that. But at the bottom line, the people of citizens of Anambra will look at who is going to provide great opportunities for people of Anambra State, who is going to unite the people of Anambra State, who is going to bring development to the Anambra State. And I believe that PDP and our candidate will do that. So I'm hopeful that we will win the state. But to do that, INEC must ensure that we have free and credible elections.
All right. So you said you don't like to criticize your predecessor or your successor. But in the breadth of this conversation, you've constantly, put out the fact out there that the governor of Kwara State is not doing well. I mean, the last statement you did make was, I hope the government should learn how to, manage effective resources, something along that line, really. So is it the fact that nothing is happening in Kwara State, that the governor is not doing anything, the incumbent governor is not living up to expectation, that you should have done better? Because when I asked you about lessons from Otoge, you equally talked about the fact that, now people in Kwara are seeing that things are not happening. That's one. Two, what's your take on of all of these agitations? IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, Sunday Igboho, and the recent statement by Sheikh Gumi that once you declare bandits as terrorists, then all hell will be let loose, that we should not call them terrorists, we should call them bandits and all of that, and all this insecurity gamut. Because you're talking about Anambra elections. The elections, if you look at the security situation, might not hold. A lot of people have been killed in the East. What's your take about all of this?
Well, I have said not now, even when I was Senate President, we made many attempts then to address the security issue in the country. I've made a couple of statements saying that what we need to do is, this security problem is a very serious one. I strongly believe that the government has not been able to address it. And I think that the approach should have been where every leader or possible stakeholder that has value, that has some contribution, should have called to a round table and for us to address this problem head on. I've said that so repeated times, that former leaders, presidents, traditional rulers, security experts, even our foreign partners, let us address this and take it with the seriousness. We cannot continue to deny that this is a serious problem. And over the time, it has grown to where it is now. That is one. Secondly, I believe that the agitations you're also seeing, it has to be with a sense of belonging. We must admit that there are parts of this country that feel at the moment that maybe they're not part of this country. They don't feel a sense of belonging. And most of these agitations are coming from that. And dialogue, reaching out, will play a massive role in giving all of us reassurances. And I think the government should do better on that. It's not just security alone that is. There are other areas that need to be addressed. And I believe that what we're seeing from all the different parts, what I said, and I'm happy you're saying it, because when I started and I said, look, these are the facts. This country has never been so disunited since the Civil War. This is fact. And you've just said it. Every part of the country, there's an issue. It was not like that before. So we've got to ask, why is it? Okay, if it is, why don't we tackle the problem? And sometimes as a government, sometimes there's a problem that needs everybody to tackle. It's not yes, the government is in place, but sometimes a problem is a problem for all of us, whether opposition members, the ruling government, former leaders. Let us work as a team and find a solution and tackle this head on. But the way it's being addressed, the problem is getting larger and larger all the time. And so my view, strong view, is that the approach government is using, it's one of the problem. I could remember in a time of the late Yar'Adua government, when we had problem in Niger Delta, it was true dialogue and conversation of all parties. Everybody sat down and dialogue and found a solution. And that has maintained peace, at least in the Niger Delta area largely. That was the foundation to where we are today. And I believe not calling out people who are either bandits or terrorists and treating them with kids' gloves has been one of the reasons why where we are today. And I think that we need to address all this issues head on and collectively as a country, because some of the so-called bandits and terrorists see the division in the country. I mean, if you want to address terrorists or bandits, you must address as a united country, determined to be able to get rid of them. But I'm not seeing that, and I know it's unfortunate. I mean, clearly that is based on results. Efforts are there, but we've got to measure this by results. And I said it is not part of weakness for a government to say, I need help. The life of Nigerians is so important. If that help is going to come from the opposition or from somebody you don't like, so be it, if it's going to bring results. And I think by bringing everybody together and say, look, how do we tackle this? And I said, so also there's technology now across the world in dealing with kidnapping. So it is very embarrassing at this stage that we're still battling with these kind of issues. So I'll keep on and I'll repeat again. What I think needs to be done is that that needs to bring everybody to the table and say, look, take advice and take contributions and see how we have good hands. We have people who are talented. We have people who have got experience. We have people who used to be in the security arm, in the military, retired, who, I'm sure, intelligence, who can contribute their own role in solving this problem. And that, I mean, those are my own thoughts, which I've shared for the past year, in trying to say that we need to do better than what we're doing now.
Well, Senator Saraki, there's been a lot of talk about diversifying the Nigerian economy, and so much talk specifically about agriculture. And agriculture was a major area of intervention for you when, years back, around 2005, you were governor of Kwara State, when you invited to Kwara State Zimbabwean farmers whose land had been taken away in Zimbabwe at the time. And then we had the Shunga farms. But that Shunga farm, since you left office, has been a bit controversial. Even last year, there was some talk about possible litigation over that Shunga farms. When you look back, I mean, how do you feel that what is supposed to be the major legacy you left behind, or one of the legacies of your administration, eventually got embroiled in politics?
It's unfortunate, and this is what we talk about leadership. But I must first correct you to let you know that there are still parts of the group that came in 2005 then, who are still doing very well. I mean, the poultry arm of the business has done well. Today, they are probably one of the second or third largest poultry business in the country. That has happened. Since then, we've had a South African company that's invested in it. So there is a success story there. But what I want us to all learn from that is that way back in that's about 14, my mathematics is right now, it's about 16 years ago now, something like that, or if I'm right, where as a young governor, a very young governor, we looked at it, or I looked at it, and we thought that what we needed was commercial farming. That was really the concept behind bringing Zimbabwe farmers in. And that concept is what has led today, as I said, to having one of the largest poultry farms in the country. Now, if we look at today as well, what we have seen that is beginning to emerge is there's still a lot of commercial farming going on now. We thank God for that, because I've always said that what we need in farming is not just the peasant small-scale farmers. That if you compare, look at other countries, most of the farmers that you have are people who have business knowledge, people who can develop business plan, who can manage. That farming is a business. It's not a social activity. And that if we want to really grow our agricultural sector, we need to get the big investors in the farm. And I'm beginning to see that, look, if you look at rice now, you see a lot of businessmen with capital, businessmen who can go to banks and make presentations and raise capital, who have equity, going into farming as opposed to just the small 1 hectare, 2 hectares farmer. That is the paradigm shift that we've seen. And that started, with all humility, in the time when I was governor. The controversy about land is just irresponsibility. There would be controversy because even then, those that had the land did not understand the value we're bringing. But today, if you go to Shonga, you can see, talk to the villagers, that they will tell you that what this has impacted on the economy in that area because of the size of employment that we now have in that area. And I'm sure the same applies if you go places where you have got sugar plantation in Niger, Sunti sugar plantation, even in Kwara also we have sugar plantation there, in Taraba, rice, and in other parts of Kenya where commercial farmers or Nigerian businessmen have decided to come in heavily into. Look at the rice milling now. You see businessmen who have gone into it, not people who are just farmers in the rural areas. Now, that is what we're talking about, and that is the shift that needs to happen, where we have huge investment in that sector. And it's happening slowly now, and we must admit that is going on, but it needs to be fully supported in a manner that's more transparent to ensure that the right kind of people are supported in getting access to funding, finance, and also being able to get in the best kind of seedlings that will support the agricultural sector. But definitely there's an improvement in that area. We still need to encourage more investment for example, on the dairy side, is a good example that we need to see that we get more investment in that area. I think it's still wrong in a country like ours that we're still importing things like powdered milk when we have the land and the opportunity to be able to be self-sustainable on agriculture, on food supply.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Bukola Saraki, for joining us on the morning show. Thank you very much indeed.